Today I will show you how to make homemade yeast from scratch using two simple methods. Both produce a no-feeding culture that gives your bread a clean and traditional flavor. You make only what you need for your recipe. It is simple and is a great option for occasional bakers who want to use wild or natural yeast without maintaining a starter. In this video, I will cover how to make homemade yeast using two methods. One flour-based and one potato-based, both made from scratch. We will begin with the flour method, which uses whole rye or whole wheat flour mixed with equal parts of warm water. Once combined, it begins forming a natural culture on its own, the homemade yeast you will use for your dough. It works the same way regardless of which flour you choose. The potato method uses mashed potato, potato water, and a small amount of flour. And none of them require feeding at any stage. To make the flour-based yeast, combine equal parts of whole rye or whole wheat flour with warm water. If you can drink and cook with your tap water, you can safely use it to make this homemade yeast. There is no need for bottled water. To make the potato-based yeast, use 1 part of whole rye or whole wheat flour to 4 parts of mashed potato and 4 parts of warm potato water. You can use leftover cooked potatoes for these methods, even if they were previously salted or lightly buttered. Use a clean jar or any food-safe container large enough so the mixture fills no more than halfway up. This gives enough space for air and rising activity. Close your jar loosely with a lid to keep the top from drying and to let the developing carbon dioxide escape. Keep the jar at room temperature. In warmer conditions, the homemade yeast will develop faster, and in cooler ones, it will take longer. Right after mixing, nothing will happen yet, and that is normal for both methods. After about 24 hours, you should see small bubbles on the surface or along the sides of the container. The flour jars may show a slight lift compared to day 0. The potato jar typically shows surface activity without rising. The texture remains thick and stable at this stage, and any rise is still minimal. By day 2, usually they all reach their strongest activity. The rye-based yeast typically rises the highest, often more than doubling. The wheat-based yeast rises noticeably, but remains clearly below the rye. The potato yeast, because of its weaker structure, shows only a slight rise compared to the flour-based yeast. It will have plenty of foaming activity on its surface. You will know your homemade yeast is ready when it has a pleasant, lightly fermented smell, shows active surface movement, and has risen noticeably compared to the previous day. By day 3, both methods will have passed their peak and are no longer suitable for bread baking. The rye and the wheat versions have already dropped noticeably from their day 2 height, and the potato yeast typically returns close to its day 0 level. Homemade yeast is much weaker than commercial yeast or sourdough starter, so your recipes will need a larger amount for the dough to rise properly. A good starting point is 200 to 300 grams or 7 to 10 ounces of homemade yeast for a standard loaf of bread. Since flour-based homemade yeast is made from equal parts of flour and water, subtract the same amount of flour and water from your recipe. For example, if you use 100 grams of homemade flour-based yeast, reduce your dough formula by 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of water. Potato yeast is about 80% liquid and 20% solids, so your hydration adjustment must reflect that. For example, if you use 100 grams of homemade potato yeast, deduct 80 grams of water and 20 grams of flour from your dough formula. Because homemade yeast develops at its own pace, your dough is the most reliable guide. Mix your dough and let it rise until it doubles in volume. Homemade yeast is best used as soon as it is ready. If you need to store it, keep it in the fridge and use it within 24 hours for the best results. It can last up to 3 days, however, it will become much weaker with every day. If you don't see bubbles after 24 to 48 hours, move the jar to a warmer spot. If you notice mold or any unpleasant smell, throw it away and start again with the clean utensils. If there is still no rise by day 3, the yeast didn't develop properly, so make a new batch. Bread made with homemade yeast has a mild fermented taste, softer than sourdough, slightly sweeter with potato yeast, and pleasantly neutral with the rye and wheat versions. This homemade yeast is made completely from scratch using 2 traditional methods that people relied on for generations. It is simple, it avoids waste, and it does not require feeding. You make only what you need, use it fresh, and get the full aroma of natural bread flavor that wild yeast is known for. If you found this tutorial helpful, share it with anyone who enjoys traditional bread at home. And if you would like to explore more real food recipes, subscribe to Rye Avenue, where traditional methods meet the modern kitchen.